Welcome to Sens Talk. Welcome to Sens Talk. My name is Brandon Plant, and I am your host. The news we've been waiting for years and years and years and over a decade is finally here. No, the Sens did not win the Stanley Cup. We're going to have to wait till hopefully this June for that to happen. But the other thing, the Ottawa Senators and the National Capital Commission have finally agreed on a sale for LeBreton Flats. That's right. It is official. Finally. There's still many steps to get through, and we'll talk about that with Julian McKenzie, the reporter from The Athletic that covers your Ottawa Senators. But before we get into that, just let me talk about this for a sec. So again, yes, the sale is official. Thank goodness. But it's just the first step of many to come. So be excited. It's official. The Sens are finally officially, after years of thinking it's going to happen, this is kind of a wait-and-see approach. It's now official. They are moving downtown to LeBreton Flats or around downtown. I know it's a bit of a controversial thing here in Ottawa to say that's downtown. I think it's close enough to downtown Ottawa, especially compared to Canada. This is certainly much closer to downtown. So it's a fantastic day for the Sens organization and the city of Ottawa. Ottawa, the city, needs this. They needed a revamp for downtown. They needed something to really get some momentum going back into downtown, which is bleeding right now. Businesses are leaving. Not many people are visiting. This is going to give people an absolute reason to visit downtown Ottawa again, and more so rejuvenate the downtown core, the Ottawa skyline, and just for the Sens organization too, the stability this will bring. You have many more. Of course, there's going to be some fans that can't go to games as easily, like in Canada, for example. But for many new fans or fans that have had to make the trek down to Canada, they can now walk to the CTC or whatever it's called. Fans from Gatineau can come over the bridge and go to the arena. It's very walkable. It's very close to many, many more people. So this opens up an opportunity for the Ottawa Senators to sell way more tickets, make much more money, and become much more of a stable franchise here in Ottawa. Again, I had no doubt in my mind, even with the Melnyk era, that the Sens were not going anywhere. This is a hockey city, no doubt about that. But we all can agree for the stability and the long-term future stability of the Ottawa Senators, a downtown arena was pivotal because, again, the opportunities it brings, the amount of fans it potentially can bring as well is immense. So, again, for the business side of things, this is huge. For the city, it's huge. And for us Sens fans, it is huge because finally we're getting that arena we've been waiting for. Hopefully a new Jumbotron as well. But it's great news, no doubt about that. Obviously, I want to start talking about, will the goal horn come to the new arena? It better, by the way. Will danger flutes come? It better, by the way. But there's a lot more to talk about before we get into that. And that's why I have Julian McKenzie joining the show today to get into the more in-depth side of things, kind of about the next steps, what to expect with the arena, public funding to be used potentially, walkability versus OC Transpo versus parking. Don't worry, I'm going to ask about parking and that situation as well. That is kind of the elephant in the room, I think I should call it, as part of this announcement, which we'll talk about with Julian McKenzie. But again, this is a huge day, again, for the city, for the franchise, and for the fan base, because the Sens desperately needed a new arena. Again, CTC, for its age, it's great. I mean, especially the sightlines, the Sens fans, I do hope. And again, we'll talk about this with Julian McKenzie, but they're basing the new arena off of, like, the one in Edmonton or Long Island, for example. I've heard good things with the sightlines there. The sightlines at the CTC are great, so I do hope the sightlines, the view that you have in any seat at the Canadian Tire Centre, at LeBreton Flats, remains as good as it is at Canada. That's a big thing for me. But again, the arena itself, we need a new arena. Let's all be honest. The player facilities and whatnot especially needed a revamp, and just the arena itself is old. So this is great for Ottawa, great for the city, great for the organization, great for everyone. Now, with that, I have a couple of things I want to go through. Firstly, a statement here from Cyril Leader, the president and CEO of the Ottawa Senators. He said today in a statement, "We are pleased to reach an agreement of purchase and sale with the NCC to take the next steps in this process. There are still many more hurdles to clear, and we look forward to working with the NCC and other stakeholders to achieve our shared vision of creating an event center at LeBreton Flats that can be enjoyed by our Ottawa Gatineau community." I think the last sentence there is key. This new downtown arena opens up the possibility for fans in Gatineau, from all parts of Gatineau, to come easily watch your Ottawa Senators, which is a great development, more so than many other things. Because again, having a whole other city be able to potentially be part of your fan base and come to games will be great for the Sens on the business side of things, but also the fan base. So again, this is such a fantastic, exciting day, and I'm so excited to have Julian McKenzie, who's about to join, to break it all down. But before we get to that, I want to say thank you to Dylan Puckniak of Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment for sponsoring Sens Talk, as Sens Talk is proudly presented by Dylan Puckniak, Ottawa's exclusive realtor with Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment, providing a bilingual real estate service that serves the Ottawa-Gatineau community. Dylan Puckniak is also specialized in supporting professional athletes that come and go in our city, providing a service that takes care of the people at the highest level. For a realtor experience that puts you and your needs first, visit dylanpuckniak.kw.com. That is dylanpuckniak.kw.com to find out more today. Again, thank you to Dylan Puckniak and Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment for sponsoring Sens Talk. Now with that, enjoy my conversation with Julian McKenzie of The Athletic. All right, I'm joined here with Julian McKenzie of The Athletic to discuss today's breaking news as the Ottawa Senators and the National Capital Commission have agreed to sell 11 acres, that being the NCC, to the Ottawa Senators. The downtown arena is finally coming. Julian, how are you doing? How's your summer been? And how do we feel about today's news?
Summer's been good. Hopefully yours has been too. The news, here's the thing. I've only been around this team for about, still less than a year. So to see an arena deal come together, it's like, oh, okay, that seems like that would be good news. I have to imagine if you've been a Sens fan and you've
Yes.
followed this entire saga from even when Eugene Melnick was still owning this team and some of the failed plans that happened with that, you're feeling this sense of relief. Like finally, like
Great news. And by the way, thanks for the good luck. I saw the tweet you put out. You brought an arena in Calgary and now here in Ottawa. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, I
Appreciate it.
don't know if I don't know when that all started, but I seem to be the arena guy now. But yeah, I would imagine this is good news. I know for the Sens,
For
they've
sure.
obviously wanted this from some time, and when I got the opportunity to talk to Cyril Leader and Michael Einlauer in the last few weeks, they've been pretty positive. They were pretty positive about the deal coming to be. It was just a question of when and not necessarily if. And again, just this long process, which has had all these different twists and turns, it seems like it's finally reached this significant, I shouldn't say end, because I think it ends when the arena
No,
gets built,
this is kind of just the beginning if you really think about it.
for sure. But as opposed to like, oh, we're still hanging on to this agreement in principle. The only thing we need to, there's so many other things that need to be figured out after the arena, but like this is a significant step towards that happening.
Exactly. Again, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And when, we'll see. I don't expect a new arena, and I don't think we can really speculate right now without any designs or anything kind of permanent there in the ground. But what I will say is they expected it to be 5 years. It closer to probably 10, I would imagine, just with the decontamination and everything that's involved. We'll talk about that in a sec, but I kind of want to talk about the signing here first. I know
Sure.
you tweeted out that they haven't really announced any of the, dollar figures for the signing. I wonder if you've heard anything about that. And also the other elephant in the room, you should call it, the public funds. Is that going to be involved as well? What do you know about just the financing around this project?
Best thing I could really say about that is the Sens have insisted that whatever sale price this ends up being will be at fair market value. I'm not going to pretend and be an expert in terms of how much land could go for and sell. It's more just the Sens say that this is going to be something that they'll deem as fair, and we'll hopefully, whether later today or at any point, if we can get a number on it, I think that'd be really good for all of us to know. Public funds, it seemed as if when the at least when I was first covering this last fall, it didn't seem as if public funds were going to be a thing, but I think just it's natural for any of us, whether you're in the media or fans or anything like that, to always just be cynical and look out for the fact that maybe public funds could always be involved in something like this. Yeah, I again, just off the fact they seem like it's not going to make it a thing, but you always have to be wary of it. I mean, the fact that it was announced initially that it was over 10-acre plot of land. They decide on 11. Does that change anything in terms of funds for that? Or we'll figure out more details, I'm sure, but you always have to keep a cynical eye for that.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And again, we've seen it happen. Frankly, every single new NHL arena has had, if I'm not mistaken, again, correct me down below or you, Julian, I believe every single new arena has had some sort of public funding. And I would expect that to continue here in Ottawa.
Yeah,
Again, what that will be, who knows? What that payback structure, if there's that possibility, will be. Who knows? Is it just a straight blank check? Who knows? Again, there's a lot more questions than answers right now, but I think the question does have to be asked because, again,
of course.
we're talking now about when our shovel's going to be in the ground. What are the next steps? Not about whether, if there's even going to be an arena. So the question has to be asked. I will say Obviously, you're working on a larger development here with the National Capital Commission. It is a federal agency, so you're
Mhm.
dealing with multiple levels here. You got the provincial that's probably going to want to be involved somewhat, of course, the municipal, and the feds, of course, that being the NCC. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be certainly interesting. The decontamination, obviously, that I think will be a big sticking point on whether or not there is public funding. I could see a scenario where the public funding is really brought into that, to finance that, because again, that was one of the big sticking points, as you know, to hold up the potential signing that we're now seeing between the Sens and the NCC. So that's kind of interesting to me. But kind of on that note, the next steps are really interesting to me. Obviously, we have decontamination, we have zoning, we have design approvals that need to be done. As I said already in this video, we expect Edmonton's new arena, the Long Island new arena for the Islanders, the Seattle new arena, these highly technologically advanced green arenas to be the model here in Ottawa. What are you hearing about that? What are the next steps for the Sens and the city to get this arena built?
Yeah, so you've mentioned some of them in terms of decontamination, zoning. When I spoke with Cyril Leader a couple of weeks ago, they still have to finish different studies on mobility and transport and parking and figuring out like how to get in tens of thousands of people in and out of that area. I mean, just where they're going to be, at least that plot of land at LeBreton Flats. Already you have like you already have some measure of like transport or train station in that
MC
area, from what
stations,
I
but
remember. Yeah. Like what could be done in order to enhance that, I guess, is something you have to think about. I think about the fact that like you're going to the CTC, a lot of people drive, and I don't think that many people will take public transit out there anyway, even though there is that option. But as the way to make it accessible in that area for the Breton Flats, like that is definitely going to be top of mind for the Senators. I think with all of this list of stuff that is at the forefront for the Sens and the NCC to figure out, of course, that's going to lead to, years before we figure out, I would assume, before we
agreed.
really see like any arena done or shovels in the ground or anything like that. I'd be very surprised if a process got done super fast on that. But I think we're still ways away from any shovel or any building done in the ground just because of some of the things we've mentioned earlier that are ahead for the Sens. But the fact, again, that they're on that process is still a good sign.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And I think you hit the nail on the head there when it came to the transportation side of things.
Yeah.
Just basically, how do you get there? Obviously, it's going to be easier for many to get to this arena compared to the one in Canada. It's just much more remote. You have to basically drive there. There's only a couple buses and they take a long time. Not many people want to take the bus down to Canada
I did
for
that
obvious reasons.
once.
Yeah, right. So,
Like the first time I ever went to the arena, like my first day on the job, I took the bus because I didn't have my car there, and like that was like an hour and
rookie
a half
mistake.
gone. That was a really long day. But yeah, it's just the way that it's set going along the Queensway to get to the arena. That's typically what you would do, and I would imagine in a scenario like this where you're minutes away from downtown, the downtown core, you're minutes away from Parliament, there should be
Yeah,
ways to make this easier. And if you're going to make it, I mean, we're thinking on the fact that like this is going to be the venue for the Ottawa Senators. We have to think more about the fact that it's a multi-purpose arena,
100%. And
and
it's
we're
a huge
seeing so
complex
many.
as well. Housing
Yeah,
there, restaurants, it's a whole thing.
you because the thing now is not just you're building an arena for these hockey games to be done. You need to build an entire experience, an entertainment
A
district,
whole
and
new
give,
district. Yeah.
give people reasons
Yeah.
to want to go to that area that go beyond just watching hockey games in an arena. Like when Calgary gets their arena up, probably in 2027, you're going to see that arena. You're going to see different shops and
Yeah.
stuff in and around that area. They want to build that district. Edmonton, you mentioned that arena earlier. It's a beautiful arena, but they have a whole bunch of other different shops and hotels or that are in that area. That at the very least, if you're going to be around there, there's so many other things you can do. So I would imagine if you're the Ottawa Senators right now, you are looking at those two venues out in Alberta. Detroit, also a
Yeah.
relatively new arena, so to speak. That's also a bit of a similar vibe as well, where you have different shops and places around. Also, love the fact that in Detroit, you are walking distance
Yeah.
from Little Caesars to Ford Field,
Yeah. It's
to
all there, all the
America. Like
stadiums.
it's perfect. I love that for if you're a sports fan in that area. There's definitely going to be a lot of different scouting going on for some of these other different up and coming, not just up and coming, I should say, but a lot of the newer, flashier arenas that have established themselves in the last few years.
And we've seen the Sens talk about that. So there's no doubt about that. And again, to a lot of people who are saying 11 acres, that's not enough. Well, the CTC in Canada is built on 10 acres. Primarily, the majority of the acres that the Sens have there in Canada is for parking. So that brings me to the next point here. What's going to happen with parking? Now, the Sens and the NCC were closer to roughly 9 acres, so 2 more acres. That makes me think, okay, there might be
Yeah.
some overground parking and then some underground parking. I would be shocked if there's no underground parking as part of this arena development, purely because we've seen it in the past. Now, I don't know, again, I don't know if OC Transpo has changed their position on this. But in the past, they have said Pimsy Station would not be able to handle 20,000 people at once. They've said that it could not handle it. So the OC Transpo, this could be a part of it as well. Do they need to, enlarge in the station? Do they need to find ways to direct traffic in other ways? This is something that we really need to keep in mind because on that traffic point, of course, it's going to be on Preston and Albert Street, not the widest street. So you're going to have a lot of people walking, whether it's, of course, just on the sidewalk. So that's going to be congested. You're going to still have people that want to drive, fair enough. So you're going to have a lot of people on, of course, the roads. But then you also have all these people from all different directions now, because by the time this arena is built, God willing, the LRT will be around downtown and throughout the entire city of Ottawa, reaching the suburbs and whatnot. You're gonna have people coming from there too. So again, this is a big, big question that's going to become even bigger as we get closer to the arena. How will the public transportation and the current facilities handle all of these people? So,
I
question
feel
to you,
like
have you
not
heard
to cut
anything
you off,
about
but I feel like whether it's for the
downtown?
arena or whether it's for the enhancement of
Yeah,
public transit, people are going to end up paying for this in some way, right?
for
Like
sure.
if you're going to build something of this magnitude, you're going to have to be mindful of the fact that when you bring up parking, like, well, a lot of cars are probably going to want to get there, and you have to find a way to avoid congestion in
Yes.
that area. Yes, you're going to have a lot of walking traffic from those opportunities. Like that could help with that, but I think in terms of this, if you're going to have an arena of that magnitude in that area, there's so much reason for expansion in that area and
Yes.
put
Which
yourself.
brings me to my question, though.
Yes,
Have you heard
exactly.
anything like that? Have you heard whether it's
Not
underground
specifically with that,
parking?
I would just say that like I would think that if you're the Ottawa Senators and you're doing those studies on transit, like those are definitely some of those
Yeah,
things that you're thinking about. That
for
that's
sure.
at least off of what the conversation I had with the Sens about that was leading towards with that. Like those are different things that they would, I'm sure they would consider when they're considering transport, whether it's walking traffic or driving traffic or public transit.
And again, look, that's also, I think some people are probably screaming at their screens, Brandon, Julian, well, there's restaurants, there's places to go, it won't be that bad. Fair enough, but it is, if you go to LeBreton Flats, it is very narrow right now, so I am very interested to see what the Sens do. And again, I
Yeah.
think they can get it done. Again, you've seen, we were talking about this before the show even begun, in Montreal and whatnot. They are literally smack downtown, and they figured it out. So there's no reason Ottawa, a capital city, can't figure this out. I'm sure they can. Last question, Julian, because I know you have a lot to do today. It's a big day here on a quiet off season. We kind of spoke about this, and I know and by the way, we'll throw it to you after to kind of tell everyone where they can read your stuff and stuff. I
Yeah.
assume this is for an article you're going to be writing very soon about how the demographics of the fans going to the arena and to Sens games are going to change with this new arena. We've already seen it on Twitter. A lot of fans in Canada who have season tickets already saying they're not going to make the trek down to downtown. They're not going to renew their season tickets. So, what are your thoughts on that? And have the Sens said anything about that potential loss of season ticket holders, primarily, of course, from those in Canada? Again, you can argue, well, this is what it's going to be when you move an arena, but that's obviously also a factor that comes to mind because that's a lot of their season ticket base.
I would think for the Senators, their biggest thing as an organization, they're trying to find all of these different ways to improve revenue, improve their fan base, and keep in mind, not just in this situation with this new arena, they're not just thinking of fans who live in the central downtown core. Remember, across the river, Gatineau's right there.
Yep.
Like, I think that's
Yep.
a huge like when the big scandal emerged with the Quebec City thing, the senators were very quick to say, okay, well, we have these initiatives that we're putting in place to tap into our francophone base in Gatineau. With this arena, you are able to do that with them being so much closer
Sure.
in that area versus them going across the bridge and then driving over to Canada and go over to the arena. Which, hey, I think the CTC is still a more or less a fine building to watch a game in, and the Senators feel that way. But I would think that you know for the fans who might feel a way about the arena not being in Canada or the western part of the city anymore, the Senators are absolutely banking on the fact that there's going to be an overwhelming amount of fans who are going to be tapped in the central part of the city, north of Ottawa and Gatineau, and other parts of the city as well, who would find it so much more accessible with it being more central versus being more west.
Basically, it's a worthy gamble, is what you're saying, and I completely agree. You have more people around there. It's going to be easier, even for smaller packs like 10, 20, whatever game packs. You're still going to have much more people, many more people, I should say, sorry, that are going to be able to, buy into something like that compared to planning your nights weeks in advance on a pack like that when you have to drive to Canada. That's such a difficult task for a lot of people. And for the people that say, in Canada, they're not going to go to games, a lot of people said that live downtown, they still went to games. So,
And
again, yeah, go ahead.
I'll add this too, because I think the Sens have made a point in emphasizing this as well. They are very big on the fact that they want this new venue to not just be this great home for the Sens, which they very much want it to be, but there's this emphasis on it being this multi-purpose spot where they could find themselves in a position where they could attract other musical artists, and not just English ones, French ones too. Again, that location mattering a lot in that sense. And that obviously that helps with money they generate and revenues and all that. Like, I think this is just for an organization that's trying its very best to improve its standing financially and experience more growth in that regard. Them getting this downtown arena, like this is like their watershed moment. Like this is what they felt they've needed for so long. And their pros in their mind outweigh the costs on having in that location. And today's a really significant day in that regard.
I will say this though, to the season ticket holders in Canada, especially through the dark days, they held it down for Ottawa,
Yeah.
and I don't know how this would work, but I do hope the Sens can find a way to kind of show their appreciation and keep them on. I don't know if that's whether with a discount or maybe they have a Sens shuttle that goes to Canada, because I don't want to just forget about the Sens fan base in Canada, who's been a big part of this fan base and keeping this organization, frankly, here in Ottawa. So we'll see what happens. Again, there
And
are
so it's a really good
so many
idea,
things
by
that can
the
happen,
way.
right?
I
Go ahead.
think to your point, like if I'm the Senators, and I think I think you make a really good point because if you're a Sens fan who lives in like Stittsville or Canada or any of those areas, yeah, you're a little bit bummed at the fact that like you're not going to be closer to this arena whenever it's done. I think if you are capable of having like a Sens shuttle that can,
Hmm.
just like there's a way to take the bus that gets you from, I guess, where more in the city or around Westboro at least that can get you out there if there's a way to go the opposite way. And like teams have shuttles all the time to just to move their fans. I would imagine if they would want to incentivize fans to come from out west to get into the city, that I think could be a really fun idea to get them in for sure. I think if you're the Ottawa Senators, you're considering so many different options with that in terms of getting fans in. Of course, there are the fans who are going to be more central or going to be more accessible to a spot like that. And LeBreton Flats stands to benefit from having an event like that. Like, I mean, I think previously the only reason why I would really go to that area is for Blues Fest, but like I think for something like this, there's so much more incentive to want to be in that area now once that arena gets built.
No doubt about that. And again, for the Sens organization, this is great, but also, as I've already said, for the city of Ottawa, very, very huge because downtown Ottawa, the city of Ottawa, has needed a bit of a rejuvenation downtown, and this is certainly going to help with that. Julian, it's always a pleasure talking to you. I'm glad to talk to you as always. Why don't you tell everyone where they can read your stuff, listen to your stuff, and everything in between?
The Athletic, still writing for the Athletic, still putting up Sens content and other NHL stuff over there. Just subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, but give us a read. We appreciate it as always. And Chris Johnston show. I'm sure we'll be back closer to the NHL season. We've been on a bit of a break over the summer. I know some in years past we've done summer episodes, but we've been enjoying the summer a
Not
little
much
bit.
happening, to be fair. Like,
Yeah,
literally
that's
not.
true. You know what? I'm not upset at that. But yeah, the Chris Johnston show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, that's where you can find us.
And stay tuned for a conversation with Julian and I closer to the season. Again, always a pleasure, Julian. We'll stay in
Hey
touch
man, let me know.
regarding
I'm always down. I'm always down to clown.
absolutely. Always down to clown. By the way, we should bring some people in on this before the show begun. I don't mean to throw you out there and
Go ahead.
put the spotlight on you, but Julian, ladies and gentlemen, thought I was in my 30s before. I was like, oh my God, unk status.
Okay, it's because you said we were talking about just like where we live in Ottawa and
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
and
During university, it's fine because you're in university, but I'm not anymore. So I
you're
don't
like
want to
what?
be
And
down there.
you're like in your 30s?
Nah, nah, that's crazy. I'm not that much unk status. I'm 23.
You just got out of college.
Yeah, just graduated.
into now. You're like, oh, well, I'm not a college kid anymore. And I feel like that's something you say when you're like
Yeah,
late
like old man
20s,
yells at cloud.
early
I'm like,
30s, like
yeah.
your priorities have changed. Not when you're at an age where you could still be a college kid. I was still in university when I was 23. So
No, fair enough. Looking back at it, I did kind of say it like I'm like the 80-year-old guy screaming at the clouds and stuff. So fair enough.
old man
Fair enough.
Sens talk. Like that's not what I come to expect when I watch the podcast.
Old man says talk. All right, Julian, we'll talk soon, eh?
Peace, guys.